Hey folks, welcome to the Michael Rollins Show. Today we're talking to Justin Skinner, and Justin is well known as an awesome racer. One might call him elite. He won't put that name on himself, but that's another story. Do you know what the number one tragic element was at this year's Multi-GP I.O.? I can tell you what, Justin knows what it was because he raced it, and he'll tell you all about it. Another question I have for you. What do you guys think about spec racing? What would a basic spec look like? Is that something that could kind of level the playing field in multi-GP? And even better, is that the future of multi-GP? That's some questions that Justin and I talk about in today's episode. I'd like to take this moment to tell you about my Patreon. I love making this show. This show is truly a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of work. In order to support that work, I've started a Patreon so that, number one, people who are really interested can get an audio-only podcast of all the interviews that I do. Now, those audio-only podcasts are early release, number one, so they release the same day as the first video, but they contain all of the material. And number two, they contain extra bits that don't make it into the YouTube version. I would love it if you would consider supporting me on Patreon. It helps make this channel possible. It helps make this show possible. And there's really nowhere we can't take it together. The link to Justin's YouTube and to my Patreon are in the description below. I hope that you enjoy Justin, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. One of the things, so I am, so, you know, to be very blunt and honest, I'm not a racer. Yeah. I'm not good enough to be a racer. I don't have the reflexes. I'm just an old man.
This is where you insert like one of your flight clips right here.
Right. Right.
The one where you
the one where I hit myself in the freaking head. Yes. But I've still looked at enough racing footage and watched people fly. It seems like the technicality of racing has just skyrocketed. Is that your experience?
You mean like the tracks?
The tracks, yeah. Like I see these tracks now where like I'll watch a video of somebody flying around a track, and even if it's not, you know, an elite racer, I'm lost. Like I have no freaking clue how I would find my way around that track again. And then they're doing things like, you know, power looping through a gravity gate into another gravity gate, and just insane stuff that like is hard to really fathom. Like, have the tracks just gotten that much more technical?
Well, they always seem to, at the bigger events, to have at least one obstacle that is a game changer. You know, they'll have that one that'll make or break you, and it'll be the top, you know, it'll be the top pilots that won't have any issues with it, but the rest of the pilots will struggle. But like I.O. was that gravity gate one where you go up and
right.
The other one. That was the one at I.O. that I would say the majority of pilots had issues with. But you're gonna see the elite pilots. Like I saw Flying Bear. He spent like I think at least one lipo that I saw for sure, where he spent that entire lipo just circling, like during practice, just circling that one obstacle. Because the only way you're going to get used to that obstacle is doing it, you know, enough to where you're comfortable. Mm-hmm. So tracks definitely are advancing as everyone's skill advances. But that's how you overcome those obstacles, is just by repetition. You know, with simulators now, there really shouldn't be any obstacle that you can't overcome in a night. You can't figure it out in a night. If you're already comfortable with your quad and you're willing to put in the repetitions, there really shouldn't be any obstacle that should psych you out that much to take you out of the game. If you want it. I mean, you do have to put in, you know, the time and the grind, because it's not going to be as much fun as flying the whole course. When you're just doing, you know, that one obstacle over and over again for an hour, you're going to be bored out of your mind. But by that time that hour's over, you should have it down, at least enough to take it on in real life. But yeah, it's definitely getting tougher. Yeah. We always seem to have one or two obstacles every year that gets thrown in where everyone's wowed about it, and then it gets used at every race everywhere for ever. Like the ladder, the ladder last year, the 3-gate ladder. What's it gonna be this year? I'm not even sure. The reverse dive gate maybe is the new one this year.
Yeah, I watch I think the ladder is one of my favorites to watch when you get like a really, 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 really good pilot that's like hitting the ladder like this. It just looks like a corkscrew coming down.
Yeah. That's my favorite. I love hitting that line because as soon as you hit the line and you know you have it, all you have to do is hold it and manage your throttle all the way through it. And it feels really good. You accomplish something when you do it and it looks pretty. And that's most lines though, I think.
Now you've gone and you know, if we're talking about boring racing stuff that nobody cares about anymore, then stop me. I remember a post from you a while ago where you were like, "Hey, y'all need to lower your rates."
Yeah.
Are low rates still the name of the game?
I would say for everyone but the top 50 pilots, yes.
Okay.
Everyone but the top 50 pilots in the States. So I'm going to say top 100 pilots, yes. It's the name of the game still. Even the top 100 pilots, it's still the name of the game for most of them. I've slowly increased my rates a little bit just because of tracks like the, which one is it? The Global Qualifier. It has some really tight sections. It's the whole track is really tight. It's a 13 to 15 second lap. So it's like basically the old UTT, the time trials. You know, you can do 1 million laps in 2 minutes. So so there's a lot of hard turns in it, where I've had to actually increase my rates this year a little bit to overcome that. And I've noticed it actually has helped me a little bit in other areas also. But for the majority of people, yes, still low rates are still the name of the game because it's all about limiting errors. It's all about limiting your shakes in a race. When you have shakes, everything's gonna be jerkier. You're overshoot turns, and when you overshoot turns, you know, too much throttle. You know, throttle capping I still think is very important for most pilots. I still throttle cap to this day, and I'm still putting up really fast times. So I love when I tell someone I throttle cap, and their mind's blown because they see the times I'm putting up on a leaderboard. Well, it's all about your lines and keeping the pace going, and not. It's about efficiency and not having to bump throttle all the time, and limiting the less stick movements, the better somebody's going to race. You're not going to have as many errors. You're going to be able to hold steadier lines. You'll be able to think your lines through or think the next obstacles through because the whole screen isn't jumping left and right on you. So if you don't have all those jarring movements happening, everything kind of slows down. Like when you watch Vanover, for instance. I mean, like the god level of his skill it doesn't even, people don't even realize it sometimes because he is so smooth and the movements are so subtle that it doesn't seem as fast as it actually is until you hear his lap times. And it's just because he knows what he's going to do and he doesn't over jump his stick movements. And his rates aren't very high. His rates are, I would say, medium low. He's not super low. I was super low there for a while. And I'm kind of medium low now too. I think I'm running his rates, I adjusted them a little bit because his rates are the presets on Flight 1, and I got tired of having to enter my rates in all my quads. So I used his rates and adjusted them until it felt right. And so his rates and just a little adjustment. But it's just, yeah. That video is 2 years old, and it still seems to be helping people. I still get messages from people who just came across it, and they made the changes, and instantly they were all of a sudden better pilots. And so the next thing I always tell them is, go watch the throttle capping video, give that a shot, and they do, and it helps. So that's nice.
You know, I've had a conversation with obviously Vanover. I had a conversation with Wild Willie. And both of them brought up the idea that spec racing is kind of the future. That we're in right now it's kind of the wild, wild west. Anybody can mount whatever they want. But if you want to get a really true race, spec racing is going to be what people are going to go to. What do you think about that?
Oh, I mean, it's funny you ask. We were just talking about this. I have a local club I'm part of, the Dallas Drone Stars,
Mm-hmm.
which consists of, Vanover's part of it, NV Astro, ADMA FPV, ADMA 20 FPV, DRL and DR1,
Yeah.
Dabs. We just brought in Old Man FPV too. But we were just talking about doing this for just our club, just our small little group of people. So that way we get together and have some competitive racing, because the whole group itself is all at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
But if you bring everyone back to a slower pace, spec racing, like you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
then the entire playing field is even. Like, so Vanover can go super, super fast, right?
Yeah.
He can comprehend it, he can process it, he can think through his turns, he can handle it. I cannot. I'm not to that level yet. But if you bring him back to, like, for instance, he came out one day at a race and his main quad went down and he was low on parts and he didn't want to mess with his other racing quads. So he threw out his freestyle quad, 800-gram quad, low KV, whatever. And all of a sudden, I was competing with Vanover, and we were in the same heat too. And that was the best racing. Like, that was the most fun I'd had racing against him ever. And
Mm-hmm.
it was all because we were on a level playing field as far as power, because I can only go so fast. I mean, my quad can go faster than I can go, because
Right.
if I try to go the speed my quad can go, I mess up. I can't comprehend. I can't think through my moves fast enough. I'm not to that level. But you bring it back a step or two. Like, if I was to take my quad right now and go my 90%, I make some mistakes. I bring it back to 75% though, I'm as smooth as butter. I throw a GoPro on, and my laps are literally smooth as butter. So if we had that power scheme throughout everybody, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something everybody can control, and it's all about your lines and being strategic with your maybe power management. I hate thinking about adding power management into the scheme of it, but maybe power management. And then you have, nose to butt racing, where someone's right in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think about how you're going to pass them. You have to think about the next line. If you need to go in tighter, if you need to blow the corner so you can get that next corner tighter, just to overtake somebody. And that's when I think it will be the most fun. And so, yeah, I can probably agree that spec racing might be the future. Yeah.
What would a spec setup look like? I mean, how do you think, like, if you're gonna give out a spec, what would it be?
Something everybody could afford.
Okay.
Something everybody can control. Now,
Like, would you put the limit on the powertrain, or would you put the limit on the electronics, or where would you introduce the specifications?
It would have to go on the powertrain. It would have to be on the power that is available to the pilot. Because, I mean, flight controller, I admit, I do think I'm Flight One sponsored, so I'm obligated to say this. But for real though, I do think Flight One does feel better on the sticks compared to Betaflight or whatever else kits. I do honestly believe that, but I don't think it's going to be the difference maker as much as your powertrain would be.
Mm-hmm.
All else equal, it could be the difference. I don't honestly know, but I think it would be your motors, props, and it would all have to be at a level that everyone can control. So I would honestly want to drop it back down to, or not drop it back down to, but use so everyone's running 6S now. We got those lower KVs where, like, the 1750 to 1900 KV setups, what seems most people are running. Pick something around there, 1800, and then throw a 5S, or not a 5S, that's probably too fast. Maybe throw a 4S battery on it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, you're going to have some really competitive racing, because you can't just gun it out of corners if you make a mistake. A lot of people, when they make mistakes, they just pitch forward and gun it to catch back up.
Mm-hmm.
They go out of control for a split second to make up that difference they just messed up. Well, if you have a quad that can't do that, those mistakes can't happen. At that point, you have to be smart with your racing. You have to be methodical. You have to be consistent and not mess up under pressure. And that's when it's going to come down to the pressure thing, being able to race under pressure, because spec racing when spec right, I think, like DRL, I think it's spec right. You know, everyone is going definitely much slower than we're going in our 5-inch open class
Right.
in multi-GP. They're going slower, but that puts them all really close together. The racing's going to be tighter. It's going to be more of a challenge. Even Vanover, you know, honestly, I predict that he sweeps the entire thing, but it's still going to probably have a challenge for him. I mean, they're probably going to be, he's not going to be able to gap him like he would if he had a 5-inch quad. So, because it's spec.
So let's say that we leap forward a year or two, and instead of open racing now, everybody is spec racing, and multi-GP has gone spec. Is Justin Skinner in the elite?
I'd like to think so.
It's a good answer. Good answer. Very, very demure answer, sir. Yeah, that is. I have toyed around with the idea of trying to go into my local racing club and actually racing. Of course, all I have are, you know, giant box quads that weigh probably 800 grams, fully loaded. But it definitely, and there's also the time commitment. But I think it would be fun. I think it would be a lot of fun.
I bet it would be.
So,
and you gotta think, when you have these those bigger quads on there, you're gonna be racing a little more controlled than some others, because
probably
that weight is basically a throttle cap itself. Throwing a GoPro on is a throttle cap in itself in a different way, because your quad can't react as much, so your throttle's gonna be, you know, less touchy, and you may be able to fly better than some others that you think should beat you.
Well, it would be an interesting test. I definitely need to get out to one race and just try it.
Yeah,
I think it would be fun.
Don't let your quads be the reason you don't go out. You will be surprised.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not my quads. I have no shame. I would show up and do my absolute best to not screw it up, but probably would. But that'd be okay. It's the time commitment. Getting out and doing a bunch of racing on a Saturday or a Sunday when we're supposed to be, you know, that prime family time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm there with you. You know, I struggle with our races here locally too, and if I'm going to go or not because of family. Sundays, if it's Sunday, it's always a toss up if it's going to happen, because that is my family day. So
yeah.
I love when they have Saturday races. I can always commit to a Saturday race. Never a Sunday race. It's always iffy.
Justin is not only a racer, he's also an entrepreneur. One of the things that maybe not a lot of people realize nowadays is that Justin at one point was the co-founder of Nito Frames. In our next episode, we talk about Nito Frames, and we talk about what Nito Frames did, how they did it special, and why Nito Frames no longer exists. I hope that you'll join us for that, and I will talk with you soon. Bye.